I'm gaining conscious access to wider range, which brings us to the skins. Most of us mistake these nervous system capacities and orientations for personality. And once you start to see what each one of these are in their pure sense, in their distinct sense, you realize, oh my God, I know somebody in each one of these categories, and they have no control over that skin. It is their absolute persona. It's how they show up in body and mind and focus, in the way that they react, in the way that they love or give, or all these different ways of behaving in the world. It comes from a conditioned way of responding to pressure. That's an extraordinary insight. And the more that you train these things, just as I mentioned at the beginning of the video here, consistently, we would find that some of these training attributes, when they were picked properly and trained with intensity, they would manifest new range and new psychosomatic personalities, for lack of a better word, but expression. I can be anybody in the next few moments. I can choose how I want to show up. So, who doesn't want that? Now, if you are trying to do big things, however defined in your life, or you are coaching somebody trying to do big things in their life, how is this not everything? How is this not the most important thing that matters? Reduce drag on your performance and increase optionality and range. You can be anyone. You don't have to be limited by the patterns that have been conditioned at a time that you weren't consciously aware of how much control and power you possess. It's fucking cool. All right, look, hell of a tirade, and I love this topic. Hopefully you do too. We're doing some good work. I'm gonna talk now about the skins, which are the 4 nervous system orientations that dictate how you show up. We can say under pressure, but the truth is all the fucking time. All right, these are heavily conditioned nervous system patterns and orientations that at once were a single act of organization and genius when we were children, right? Pressure sets in, and then I had, at one moment, this could have been accumulating, okay? I'm a baby, I'm crawling around, I'm playing with stuff. I'm slowly learning skills of how to tense myself and how to resist and how to relax and do the whole thing, and maybe even pay attention to a game and how to listen and hear. And so I'm gradually developing all of these attributes, but then there is one moment of pressure that distills them into a coherent response that signals, this is the safest way for me to deal with this pressure and this problem. And that is one of 4 ways. It's either resist and tense, it's either yield and relinquish, it's focus or reason, and it's sense and feel. And each one of these orientations is incredibly powerful and profound, and that's why we tend to live into them over many, many years, and they become dominant orientations. And if you don't know yours, link in the description. We've got a 15-question quiz, takes about 2 to 3 minutes to take. It's quite accurate. We've put a lot into this. You're probably going to test to one of these 4 skins or double dominance, but if you get combo, respond to the email you get with your results. I will personally look up your combination results to give you the specific breakdown of which ones may be dominant even within a combination of all 4. The incredible insight from this is that we have the range of all 4 living within us. But because we have conditioned and trained certain patterns more than others, they become dominant expressions that we default to unconsciously. These fall into the category of the conditioned skin, where once they were genius, emergent, the perfect solution to pressure when we didn't have the language or understanding to coordinate a response, our body gave us the answers. Now they've been repeated and trusted, but oftentimes they've been trusted into an arena that outlasts its usefulness unless we find clear direction, right? So you might find somebody with the warrior skin, the one who starts with resistance or tension, going into a domain like law enforcement or the military or CrossFit as a training model. Any one of these things where they are rewarded for that orientation. You find somebody that's the sage, the one who focuses. doing heavy mental work. They might do computer programming. They might play chess as a hobby, right? Something like this, where all of the attention is up here, largely not much below the neck, right? The body tends to operate as a brain taxi for sages. We get into the shapeshifter, and this is somebody that might fall into the domain of artistic expression or something that rides the waves of literal waves. Could be a surfer, for example. But somebody whose dominant attribute is yielding, flexing, going with the flow, adapting in real time. Also people in other creative arts and creative design work fall into this category because they constantly need to find new solutions and work with a complex data field and not get stuck in one particular category. And then we find the asset, also commonly known as the empath or the sensate. And this skin is organized through sensation, feeling, largely below the neck. It's taking in all this data and information, and it's not reasoning an outcome. It's relying on intuition and coherence to walk through what feels right in this moment. And this is possible because the unconscious mind or the subconscious mind can work at like 40,000 times the capacity of the conscious mind. There's a lot that we're able to take in. The assets, the sensates, have greater access to this information. They're highly sensitive people. And they fall into the categories of the healers, the yogis, the empaths, and work that largely tends to reward sensory feeling.